Hello, hello, welcome. Now, before I say another word, let me just advise that you don't look too closely lest you observe the crust around my nose. Yeah, I've been sick, okay? The Antichrist, Satan's favorite daughter herself, she gets sick sometimes. Yeah, big deal, whatever. If you're new here, welcome to my little slice of hell. It's great to have you. If you're not new, then you know the shtick. Welcome back. Now, being sick has not really put a damper on the release of Liked. If you're new here, this is my second independent short horror film. It just released on YouTube. Yes, the big public release. She's finally here. This is a big deal because everything that I do is crowdfunded. I've been building up this channel for the last 5 years, and my short films would not be possible without my audience. Now I have not one but 2 horror shorts out in the world, so check out Somnum while you're there, might as well, and also log them both on Letterboxd. I also just released the behind the scenes mini documentary on the making of Liked, so you have that to enjoy as well. And wouldn't you believe it, The Monkey, directed by Osgood Perkins, has almost the same exact rating as Liked on Letterboxd, and Somnum actually. And wait. Oh my god. I'm in a review for The Monkey right now, aren't I? This is the usual content you can find on this channel if you're new here, by the way. I typically just talk all things horror movies. Solo reviews like this, solo deep dives on classic horror, I do ranking videos, top 10s. Plus I also put my money where my mouth is, and I make horror movies too, so if that sounds like a hoot to you, then stick around. The campaign for my next horror short film starts this week, actually, Famished, and I'm gonna be doing some very undignified things on live streams in the coming months to try to get money from you guys, probably. So, okay, I'm sorry, seriously, enough self-promo. Let's get into my review of The Monkey. Starting with my spoiler-free thoughts, I think that the majority of this review is going to be spoiler-free, and then of course I'll give you a warning once the spoilers start. Something that I like to kick off my reviews with usually is talking about like my background with the filmmakers, because I think that laying out your expectations of a film is really important. I talked about this before, I'm going to keep talking about it, because whether we like it or not, our expectations really color our experience. This is why, I wonder how many times I've said this, probably at least 50 times on this channel, that I don't watch trailers anymore, because I try to go in with as little expectation as possible. I knew the rough synopsis of this movie about twin brothers that had this toy monkey, and I assumed it did devious things. It's a Stephen King adaptation, but also when it was announced, it was said that it was starring Theo James and Elijah Wood, so I thought that they were the brothers. That is not correct. I was a little bit Elijah Wood baited, but anyway, I love Theo James. I loved him very much as a youngin'. Okay, a decade ago, I was a Divergent truther. I understand now that Divergent makes no sense and it really was just like a poor man's Hunger Games, but we were eating that dystopia stuff up back in the 2010s. So the standards were low and Theo James was hot. I personally haven't seen him on the silver screen since then, and he just deserves so much more. So thank you to Oz Perkins for casting him in this. He did a lot of weird stuff throughout like the late 2010s, and then in the early 2020s, it's just a lot of nonsense. Oh, he was in that movie Duel with Karen Gillian. Oh, unfortunately, I found that movie really boring. Like I really wish that movie was better. So he's in The Monkey. I'm like, yes, I'm sad, because I only saw the first 50 Shades of Grey as a teenager. Just, it was like a morbid curiosity thing. But I thought so back then, and I still think that Theo James should have been cast as Christian Grey. Point is, my ass was sat. I was so excited to see Theo. Now, my background with Oz Perkins, I guess, okay, so he's going as Osgood Perkins now, which is cool, very unique name. I think that he was credited as Oz Perkins with Gretel and Hansel. At least when you search it up on Google, yeah, it says directed by Oz Perkins. That's how I know him, because that was my introduction to Oz Perkins. I adored Gretel and Hansel. It came out like right before everything shut down in 2020. I don't know if that was why I got swept under the rug, but like people just were not waking up to Perkins at that time. I was. It was like the biggest, happiest surprise of 2020, because Lord knows everything went downhill after that. Oh, I'm sorry. I know it's been 5 years, but it still feels too soon. With Gretel and Hansel, let's just say I'm not new to this. I'm true to this, okay? I love that movie. Then I caught Black Coat's Daughter, which like tonally I felt like was very, very, very similar to Longlegs, kind of tonally similar to Gretel and Hansel, very indie vibes, pretty self-serious, and my overwhelming emotion with Black Coat's Daughter was boredom. This didn't mean that I wasn't excited though for Longlegs, and I gave Longlegs an entire dedicated review on this channel, so you can check that out as well. Longlegs was a 4 out of 5 for me. Like I really, really liked it. I didn't love it, just because Nick Cage was making some choices throughout most of his screen time that I really disagreed with. I will stand by that interview scene though till the day I die. That was the moment that I knew he wasn't miscast. But anyway, I've said that too many times. I had no expectations about this as far as it being a Stephen King adaptation. I knew kind of in my soul that it was not going to be something that resonated with me as much as Longlegs or Gretel and Hansel, just because Stephen King adaptations are so hit or miss. And a lot of the times, even with his best stories, Stephen King's endings are more often a miss than a hit for me. But love Theo James, love Oz Perkins. I think the whole cast, like Rowan Campbell, I can't remember if I think I knew that he had been cast in it, but that had been announced a long time ago, so maybe I'm making that memory up. But I was so excited that I went to an early screening 9 days before the movie actually premiered. I think it was 9 days. I think it was on the 12th. We don't come here for math. Now, unfortunately, I was very let down by this film. I was entertained, and I didn't outright dislike it the way I did with The Black Coat's Daughter. I found it to be a serviceable popcorn flick, but if you got my recent review of Hard Eyes, I gave Hard Eyes my stamp of approval of a little heart on Letterboxd. I did not do that for The Monkey. And let me tell you, there is a world of difference between a 3-star film that you give a heart and one that you do not. I did just some very, very light sort of skimming internet research because I was mostly disappointed in the tone of the film. The fact that they were just trying to throw so much at the wall and that like almost none of it was sticking. So I found out some things that were rather curious because I never read the short story by Stephen King. According to many, many Reddit users, there is no comedy in the book. It's just very straightforward horror, and the idea to interject so much comedy was completely on the shoulders of Oz Perkins. I took liberties like a motherfucker. Atomic Monster had a very serious script, very serious. I felt it was too serious, and I told them this doesn't work for me. The thing with this toy monkey is that the people around it all die in insane ways, so I thought, well, I'm an expert in that. Both my parents died in insane headline-making ways. I spent a lot of my life recovering from tragedy feeling quite bad. It all seemed inherently unfair. You personalize the grief. Why is this happening to me? But I'm older now, and you realize this shit happens to everyone. Everyone dies, sometimes in their sleep, sometimes in truly insane ways, like I experienced, but everyone dies, and I thought maybe the best way to approach that insane notion is with a smile. So yes, the world is a very tumultuous place, and I like to think that my channel is a place that we can go to kind of like laugh through the pain. I'm fully on board with that, absolutely. The thing is, this movie's not funny. It's written for teenage boys, and I don't know why. Oz Perkins is 51 years old. Like, no, I'm not gonna laugh just because somebody's sentence was emphasized by the F word. It just feels like it's trying way too hard. To me, the best comedy works when it's either super naturalistic, so the actors are playing it really straight so that the characters don't know that they're in a comedy. They're just playing it earnestly, and they're using the truth of the comedy to make it work. Because for a joke to be funny, there has to be some sort of inherent truth there. There has to be some sort of like relatability. Or if not relatability, it just has to be grounded in something that like we know to be true. That's why all stand-ups draw from their own life experiences. All the jokes in The Monkey just feel very recycled. Like, if you only go to the theater and see like 4 movies a year, this is gonna seem hilarious. Dare I say, you might even think that this movie is original. And it's not that I think that tonally that couldn't have worked, because the gore is fantastic. All the deaths truly are insane, like he said. But I don't think that the comedy matches it. Sometimes it does feel hammy enough, but a lot of the times it doesn't. A lot of the times it's just stuff that I feel like I've heard before. And to me, it feels like Perkins sort of failing to strike a balance. He's either dead serious to the point where with The Black Coat's Daughter, like, boring, or he seems to have the sensibility of like a 14-year-old. A couple moments absolutely did work for me, and that's because Theo James is doing what I talked about, where he is playing things extremely straight. And then a few moments are a little more over the top and a little bit more self-aware. I didn't realize that Theo James had such a grasp on comedy. Like, I didn't know he was such a great comedic actor. I hope that this opens more doors for him, because how has he not been in like a million rom-coms? I guess, well, they kind of like died out in the 2010s. I'm hoping we're starting to get back to that, but he's great. Even though I think that a lot of the writing is really weak, all of the emotional punches come from him. Rowan Campbell, my beloved, I don't think that he was like necessarily miscast. I think the writing for his character in particular was really bad. They also have him in this super expensive looking wig, and I'm assuming that part of the joke is that he cannot see. Hi team, been editing over here, and let me just tell you, this video has been done since Friday, but I have been putting off completing it minute because I cannot find a picture of Rowan Campbell. And I'm about to make some pretty hilarious and extremely accurate commentary on the wig that he was wearing in the movie. And I could not find hide nor hair of a photo of that man in The Monkey. Now, I'm sorry to the movie gods. I really am. I even tried to find like The Monkey online, full movie, free. But I'm a patron of the arts, so I don't really know how to find like bootleg version of the movies. But that's how desperate I got to just try to find a single image of this man online. Couldn't do it. Could not be done. So I went ahead and I drew him. Isn't he gorge? This is pretty close to how he looked in the movie. His hair definitely looked a little bit nicer, but this will be the referential image. For now, for the commentary you're about to see. Why the vibe change, by the way? Where the hell am I? Well, it's my mom's birthday. It's my mom's birthday, and I flew home to surprise her. Yeah. Okay, well, for those of you that have seen the movie, you know what he looks like, so this commentary will work. If you haven't, just use your imagination, okay? Fill in the gaps. And yes, that is an expensive wig. Are you kidding me? Is this giving, like, disheveled punk to you? No, this looks like my mom after she gets a blowout. No split ends, very trendy bangs. I, like, genuinely just what the fuck? If they think it's giving Brendan Fraser in Airheads, it's not. And again, maybe that's supposed to be, like, a self-aware joke with the character, like he thinks that he's giving Brendan Fraser in Airheads. I just don't buy that this character is using argan oil on his ends. Like, you know what I'm saying? His involvement is also extremely random because another problem this movie has is that the interpersonal relationships between characters are not fleshed out whatsoever. And it's ironic because the whole thing is about these twin brothers, but everything is done in the most generic way possible. I had a similar problem with another Stephen King adaptation. What was it? The one with Sophie Thatcher. Oh, The Boogeyman. Oh, and this movie has a bully in it too. We'll get to that. Colin O'Brien, I think, had my second favorite performance in the movie alongside Theo James, but he's relegated to just broody teen. We don't get to know him at all. Even when they try to shift a little bit and show you a little bit more of like a mischievous side of his character, the dialogue again is just so generic that it puts this wall up. Like, I still don't feel like I'm seeing something new from this character. Oh, I'm learning something else. It still doesn't feel that way because I'm just like, no, it's like somebody wrote this. I hate when comedy feels written. I really do. Because you know what? It's because I watch enough comedians' podcasts to know that people can be naturally funny. So when someone is not and the writing is bad, like it just grates on my nerves. And I'm not gonna put that onto the writers of this movie. I'm not gonna put that on Oz Perkins. Sometimes it is the studio and sometimes that is just like this amorphous cloud of producers complaining about things. So generally when I am making creative nitpicks, like now that I've gotten a little bit closer to the like producing side of the industry, I've witnessed more of that. Please know that a lot of this is not going like from creative to creative. Majority of the time, just know that my beef is completely focused at like non-creative producers, studios, and you know, people making decisions that really shouldn't be. Anyway, continuing on with the cast, like I said, don't be fooled by the Elijah Wood credit. He is there for one scene and they just don't use him to his potential. Same thing with Adam Scott, also just there for one scene. And you know what? Adam Scott's scene is good. I thought that his scene was setting me up for a much better movie than I got, but anyway, he brings a very kind of Ben Wyatt energy. You know, just the cast in this movie was great, but they were more or less wasted on dumb jokes. I just know that seeing Theo James' performance in this movie, I know that he could have been given so much better and could have ran with it. So maybe my main problem is with the comedy, but also just like thematically, like I said, it was underbaked. From what I understand from my light skimming research, the themes came from Stephen King, but also like Perkins said himself, this material is really close to his heart because I didn't know before this that he lost his parents in apparently insane ways. So I definitely think it is a mix of the two. It definitely has like a lot of Perkins influence, but that is one of my biggest pet peeves in cinema is when themes are underbaked because it's like either do it or don't. It's why I loved Y2K so much because I don't think that thematically they were trying to say anything. It just was like deliciously stupid. And The Monkey obviously also wants to like have absurdist comedy and be really dumb and out there. But then also it's like now everyone wants to make some kind of statement about trauma or whatever. And it's just lost its bite for me. Like I said, if you don't watch a lot of movies, you're a casual movie fan, or it's just like something you do on a date night every once in a while, you're not like a big cinephile, then maybe you will get something satisfying out of this movie. But when this is your job and you watch like 4 400 movies a year, like moi, it's just really weak. The twin brother thing, it's super weak. They're trying to explore the nature of evil, nature versus nurture, loyalty to blood, obviously the absurdity and, you know, how impersonal death is. It's crazy that Oz Perkins apparently experienced this tragedy with his parents, but this movie doesn't feel like it has any kind of authentic foundation to it. That's the problem, because listen, this girly right here, looking at you, I am an adopted person who has gone on the journey of finding my biological family, specifically my siblings. So you mean to tell me that this epic about this avoidant father trying to find his long lost twin left me emotionally hollow? The whole brother thing could have been an excellent emotional core, but Perkins just did not treat it with any type of seriousness. And that's fine, because he said his intention is to approach it with a smile, but at its core, it's very real. Like, it's a real thing. People lose their parents, like we all do. Most people in the world also have siblings, and most people with siblings have a complicated relationship with their siblings. Like, that's just what it is. So why was not a shred of it taken seriously just to ground us? It was all treated like a joke, so I just didn't care. Don't care about your stupid characters. Boo! And caring about characters is probably the number one thing in a movie that keeps me engaged. I've never really ranked that, but I feel like it would be like characters and then maybe story. And then thirdly would be artistic intrigue. If it's a comedy, that honestly could shoot to number one if something is actually funny. But also no, because with comedy, the characters have to feel real. It has to feel like they're authentically saying these things, because remember what I said about truth. So yeah, that was unlucky for me with the Monkey. If you have a similar taste in comedy to me, then I don't think that you'll like The Monkey. But the movie is perfectly serviceable, okay? A 3-star rating is decent from me. It was a perfectly serviceable popcorn flick. I was engaged pretty much the whole time. Engaged, but maybe not really interested, if that makes sense. Like, I never felt the need to check the time on my phone, but I also didn't really care what was going on. It's a way to pass the time. There are worse ways to spend like an hour and 35 minutes or whatever it is. Now, the gore was good. I just had very, very similar problems with this movie that I did with Hard Eyes, where I'm like, everything is generic, it's not funny, but the gore is really good. And if you're a gore hound, if you're a fan of Final Destination, then you're probably gonna enjoy The Monkey. I enjoyed those parts of The Monkey. I don't think I would tell you to go watch this movie if you're an Oz Perkins fan, but that's probably why the majority of these people are going to the movie. It's something incredibly different from him, and I'm with it. I'm here for it. But the jokes and the thematic core, they need to be workshopped a little bit. That's my final recommendation. I am usually gonna tell you, like, you know, go see it for yourself. Make your own opinion. But hey, recession economy, so you just be mindful where you spend your money. That's gonna do it for the spoiler-free section, so let's just briefly get into spoilers. I'm not gonna go through all of the story beats and everything, because like I've said, this movie just didn't interest me enough to do that for you, and it's not super plot rich. So the first act is a long setup. It could have been an email, mama. We follow these twin brothers. One of them is an asshole and one of them is a nerd. You can tell because he has glasses. I have glasses too, but I look like a hot librarian. Let's cut that. The typical Stephen King bullying stuff is just so trite at this point. I am so sick of it. I know that bullies are real. That I know. I just cannot stand the typical Stephen King bullying stereotype anymore. It's been so overdone, so specifically by him, and also because bullies have evolved. Hello? The access to comedy and information on the internet has allowed children to read you like never before. Are we familiar with Santana from Glee? She is the queen of all time of reading people, right? Back then, she was one of one. Now there's a sizable percentage of children who can read you like her. Bullying is not just like, oh, you dork, you eat boogers. Now bullying is like, I've seen your dad's hairline, Rogaine didn't work for him and it's not gonna work for you, so don't even talk to me funny. That's what it is now. So like, sorry if I'm not impressed by a little kid being like, you fucknut. The writing is boring. That's boring to me. Because the thing is, like, that can't even be satirical, because that genuinely is how bullies have been written for ever. I just can feel that that's like an argument that could be made for this kind of writing. If you're new here, that's the thing with me. I just am not with it with those kind of excuses for bad writing. Oh, it's self-aware. Oh, it's supposed to be bad. Nah, yeah, no. I know that the first act is period, and so the bullying probably aligns with that time, but oh my god, it's annoying. I also am not a fan of the narration. Now listen, I love Theo James' voice. That's fine. He can talk in my ear all day. But it's also very trite. It's very spoon-feedy. This is not an early 2000s action trailer. I wouldn't complain about it if the jokes were actually funny, but they're not, so like be quiet. Really just was not a fan of the first act, and then once Theo James comes in, I was enjoying myself a lot more. This happens after a pretty good cameo from Oz Perkins, a very unceremonious off-screen death. That did make me giggle. I thought it was a very funny sort of like cut to his funeral. And then also he kills his own mom using the monkey toy, which I haven't explained, but like if you're watching the spoilers, you should have seen the movie. The monkey, you turn the key and then it kills someone in a very Final Destination fashion, but it never kills the person that turns the key. So the brothers, they try to get rid of it, they throw it down a well, whatever. The rest of the movie is just the return of the monkey, it killing a bunch of people, and Theo's character trying to find his long-lost twin brother, all while exploring that he is a terrible, avoidant father who is going to be losing custody of his teenage son. It's mostly just running gags, that's why there's not a lot of plot to get into. It's also a short story by Stephen King. I don't know how plot dense the little novella is. The plot holds things together in the loosest of terms. I'm a girl that can appreciate running gags, like I don't need plot, not by any means. I actually enjoyed Beetlejuice more than the original, and I did enjoy all the deaths, but the CG was pretty stinky. Can you just tell how I hate how half-assed everything is in this movie? The jokes, the wigs, the effects. Could you guys have just taken one thing to its potential? You know what I'm saying? It's definitely a popcorn movie. I know I've said this. I know it's not that deep, but why couldn't it have been better? They did have a fake gorgeous leg that they threw at Theo James. That was good. They also splattered him, absolutely doused him in fake blood. I have to give credit where it's due, but I wanted to see that like everywhere. I just found the whole thing very anticlimactic, especially the very ending where he confronts his evil twin brother. And I guess the twist that it was his brother killing everybody pretty early on. I can't remember exactly when, but when it was the big reveal aha moment, like I was already there. And their climax was just so paint by the numbers. I'm evil because you killed my mom. Yeah, I am flawed. No, yeah, I get that. Truce. It happened just about that quickly, actually. Then the whole world just starts exploding. So, okay. Like, I don't know. I appreciate a swing like that. I am the audience for that. But when the comedy all leading up to it has exclusively been jokes that I've heard before, the absurdist ending rings hollow. Like pretty much everything else for me in this movie. It has some very enjoyable moments. I don't think I could pinpoint entire scenes that I enjoy, just moments. The watch overall was worth it for me. I'm not gonna be trying that hard to own this movie. I don't know when I would revisit it. I'm very, very meh on it. Oh, and also, I forgot to say this in the spoiler-free section, whatever. The vibe of this movie gave everyone in the audience the idea that there would be an end credit scene. You know how I know this? Everybody stayed. I think like maybe 2 or 3 people got up and left when the credits started rolling. I was sat there. I was actually on Google. I was like, the monkey end credit scene, couldn't find anything, so I just sat there through the entire thing. And then once all the credits were done, lights came up, my audience audibly groaned. I don't know what gave us the idea that we are out of the Marvel era. Majority of movies now do not have mid-credit or end-credit scenes, but something about the vibe of this absurd movie, like everybody was still sat. We were like, well, of course they're gonna pull, you know, one last thing over on us, and they didn't. And that just, that left a bad flavor in my mouth. Now my friend Tiago, he lives in London, and apparently at the end of his screening, they played a teaser for Oz Perkins' next horror movie, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, what the hell? I think it's called Keeper or something, so at least we have that to look forward to. I'll still be sat for whatever Perkins does. But yeah, overall letdown. What did you think of the monkey? Let me know all your questions, comments, concerns down below. Another reminder to check out Liked, give it a log on Letterboxd. Also, if you are a pro on Letterboxd, whatever the top tier is, I have recently added alternative posters and alternative backdrops so you can customize it yourself on your little review. Also check out Somnum while you're at it, why not? I also have a second channel where this week I will be talking about my personal Oscar ballot. No, I'm not in the Academy, but it's just like, who would I vote for if I was? Because the Oscars are coming up, I'm pretty pumped for it. I don't know about you. I also have a Patreon where you get weekly bonus content depending on which tier you join. Big thank you to all of my supporters. Their names should now be on the screen. You can also find all my social media linked down below. I'm posting a lot of fun behind the scenes pictures and stuff for Liked coming up here on my Instagram. But more than anything, I just hope that you enjoyed this video and I hope I catch you in the next one. Bye.